So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the OOH Insider. I am Andrea Henley, guest host for Tim Rowe. Thank you, Tim, for allowing me this opportunity. When this opportunity came about, the first person I thought of was James Orsini, the president of Sasha Media Group. This will be our third anniversary of interviews. Each time we've done something a little different, written form, video form, and now Zoom form. I guess this saves me a flight up to New York. I don't know if Floridians are allowed in New York anyway. So you at this capacity, James, you have been such a mentor to me and so many people while running a multi-million-dollar media group. You're very generous with your time, and everything you do, you lead with a servant heart. So I'm really very honored to have you here and see you again. I know we've kept in touch through this, but thanks for being here. And how are you doing?
Well, we're doing great. You know, to your point about our Floridians allowed here, you would be, but you'd have to quarantine for 14 days before we could have our interview. Yes, you know, it was so funny because different stages of my career throughout the VaynerX family and the interview process, right? We started out when you were interviewing me. I was chief operating officer of VaynerX. At the time, was actually running the Vayner Production Studios in Long Island City until we landed on our new leader, Aaron Covan, who's been doing great there now. You know, just part of executing on Gary's vision, and now most recently as president of the Sasha Group, where you know he had a vision to service small and medium-sized businesses, and had built a company to service Fortune 500. So didn't have a spot. So we created a new company, and he asked me to lead it, and I'm thrilled and honored. And you know, about a year and 9 months into it, and I'm pleased to say that it's successful. It's running. It's resonating well in the marketplace for the sub 200 million type company from a revenue perspective. And our goal is to get them to outgrow the Sasha Group and grow into VaynerMedia. So that's what we do here.
Okay, so it's kind of the launching pad into Vayner.
Yeah,
I did some research on, because I'm the guest host, on who the audience is that's watching this, and I thought it was mostly out of home. However, it is small business owners, small to medium-sized business owners. So I thought this is even a better fit for those of the people, the audience that are watching that may know Vayner and not totally familiar with Sasha. I feel like Sasha Group is education, marketing, consulting, mentoring. Mm-hmm. Well, and right now there's such a need for small businesses that are trying to market themselves, rise above the noise, not sure what direction to go into. Can you give us sort of the overview or the Reader's Digest of start to finish what small businesses can, obviously if they retain you?
Yeah. I mean, look, we have this great entry-level product that we launched actually during the pandemic, an educational product called Stork, which gives weekly tactical content for small businesses, right? So Monday, it's a 5 to 10 minute video. On Wednesday, it's topical articles about what was released on Monday. And on Friday, it's an Ask Me Anything Live, where the audience can ask questions about Monday's topic, right? And that could be how to advertise on a podcast, how to find influencers for my local business. It's a really great value membership, if you will, for I think it's $300 a year that we're doing that now.
Oh, I'm gonna get
So,
that.
yeah, it's a great. You should. It's Stork.
I know. I need this. I'm asking for me.
Yes,
Okay.
stork.thesashagroup.com, and you could find out from that.
Okay. I'll get that.
That's really been a successful. When it was free, we had like 1,100 people during the pandemic using it to get them back on their feet, and then we flipped it from a free content to paid service type model. We have a couple hundred members, and they're really finding value. We take surveys to see what more they want to see, what more value we could bring. This week was a topic on our branding versus sales. We had what's new on TikTok, but real tactical how-tos. It's not informative. It's do this. So in the pandemic, we saw a couple things happen for small businesses. One,
Okay.
they had to absorb the fact that the world was different. Okay.
Right.
They had to adapt, and early stages were survival mode. It wasn't about profit. It was about, I got to be standing at the end of this thing, and if I am, I've won. And the third was really what we called attacking, moving a piece of the business to offense, because you can't win the game strictly on defense, right? So at the Sasha Group, our pivots we're moving to helping our clients find solutions through virtual whiteboard sessions, helping them, live action production we shut down. So taking existing pieces of content, send them to us. We would remix the content and push it back out within 10 days or so, in order to give them some freshness to marketing. So we've been finding a lot that they're getting on their feet. We were kind of talking off camera, you and I, about some of the things that you're doing in your small business, and we did notice that there's some smart things that small businesses will do even after the pandemic. Like, it's not going to go away, right? So what are some of those things? Well, it's improved customer service, right? You realized how valuable your customers were when you lost more than 50%, right?
Absolutely.
It's new products and services, right? We were talking about your place launching virtual, right? So virtual events are not going to go away. It's a renewed focus on your basic digital footprint. You got to have a website that's good. Your social channels need to be functional. We're in a digital world now, right? You have to pay attention to that. You're going to make a commitment to digital, right? Maybe in e-commerce or something like that. So these are things that won't go away. Even if your retail store opens, you're not going to shut down your e-commerce. You were forced to build an e-commerce site, right? We were working with a client, Bumbleberry Farms, and it was high-end honeys that were sold at retail. Well, needed a pivot, right? Need to get onto social. The retail stores were closed, so those type of things are not going to go away. Focus on cybersecurity, right? Early on, everybody, it was all these Zoom things, and everybody was getting the Zoom bombers, right? So we realized you need some security.
What businesses are you seeing that traditionally we haven't seen that are coming to the forefront now? I mean, you guys are the master of reinvention, innovation. Are there some, you've seen some businesses really take off during this that are like, wow, surprising? Pool services here, for instance, in Florida, because everybody's quarantined, so they started using their pools again. Motorsports, boats, and things like that. We just want to, is there anything that, and how has that affected ad dollars? I know some went away, but are you seeing, wow, this new sector or vertical is, really hot right now? Just curious about that.
We're certainly seeing that, anything around the personal touch area, right? Anything around the digital experience area. People are spending more time at their homes. So, You can't buy an above ground pool. I tried to find an outdoor fire pit this weekend, sold out. You know, people are taking the time to do what they're doing in their home because they realize, like, take somebody like me, right? So I would get up, living in New Jersey, working in Manhattan. I'd get up at 5:50 a.m. and I'd come home at 7:30 p.m. I didn't really see my house. Now I'm living in my house and I'm realizing, wow, I need new garage doors. I should really have like a back patio. I don't even have a patio, you know? So I'm spending. Home improvements are out the roof. You can't buy a gardening hose. Like, you're not going to go to a hardware store and find anything related to gardening. It's all sold out.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. It's the summer months there as well. And that's something that's crazy. It's the same here with pool chemicals and pool services, and people are building pools. We were just going to buy some jet skis. We can't get them. We can't even find them.
and companies that were doing one thing and then pivoted to another, right? So we had a client called Dormify, which sold dorm room furniture, right? And then all of a sudden, all the students were pulled out of the schools. The schools were shut down. So they pivoted and realized, wow, people are going to be working from home. They're going to be on screen now. Maybe they need a more comfortable chair, a pillow for their bed, a picture hanging on the wall. So it was the same messaging that we then just helped pivot to a work from home kind of environment as opposed to a dorm room. You know, and most of the stock, you know, was able to apply.
How is, speaking of like working from home, I've been to your offices. It's really this, you feel like you're walking into somebody's home. You guys all are, you know, just love each other. It's a great culture. Obviously, it's great leadership. And I know that there's a lot of energy and collaboration that, you know, needs to be there, you know, in person. But how have you all adjusted to working from home? Or do you guys do half home, or do you get together? What is the culture at Sasha like?
Yeah, so
in the sense.
So the interesting part about that is, you know, connecting with employees is another one on the list of smart things for small businesses that won't go away. Okay, I've never felt more closer to my leadership team than now when I'm apart, and that includes leadership that I have in Tennessee and leadership that I have in California, as well as the New Yorkers whom you met. So we're using a little software called an app called Marco Polo, where we share, you know, video content and we speak through. It's video texting, if you will. But, you know, usually kick off every day with a, hey, here's it. It's sort of a conversation from me to the leadership, which they engage with. Some answer back, some just, you know, give me a thumbs up emoji or heart or something like that, obviously. Again, twice a week with my leadership team on a Zoom call. Last week, as an example, I engaged with what I called my newbies. So 4 people that I hired during the pandemic who only started in the virtual world, right? So they've never, they left a comfortable job at another company. Not one of them were unemployed. So they left a comfortable job in another company to come and join this virtually with meeting nobody but talking heads on a computer. So, you know, I wanted to make sure that they were feeling a part of the culture and plugged in. And I said, you guys know, I'm the only one who referred to you as newbies. Everybody, you're part of the team. Nobody's calling you the new people. You know, that was me as part of, you know, the meeting setup. So, yeah, those are things. We have an all hands meeting next week where I'll share, you know, an update for the second quarter that ended. We'll have
just a normal.
Yeah, 50 people on the video. So.
Do you feel, speaking of that, like I saw a lot of companies, right? You and I've been through this type of stuff before, .com era, real estate crash. We always recover, we always rebuild, we always adapt, we go pivot. I've seen a lot of companies do knee-jerk reactions because of this and forced retirement, some of the people that were talented, but just trying to save money. Also, I was surprised at the number of people that were laid off or furloughed that were really talented and were performers, but it was just like they were sacrifice during this, versus the company trying to figure out how do they've hit the panic button versus let the dust settle. Let's see where we're at. There's a whole slew of these really talented people that are like, look, I was great. I was there for 15 years. I was performing, but, I was let go. The virtual is the new, office space, and you can get the highest level of talent now, no matter where they're at. What have you seen? Do you think that, my question is, do you think a lot of businesses did a knee-jerk reaction versus trying to change their direction in the new, what are we calling the new normal?
Well, I actually wrote a couple pieces on this, which you could find on Medium. One was about not sleeping during the pandemic. The other was I was young and now I'm old. And it's basically to your point about seeing, being down on Wall Street, during the crash of Lehman and 9/11 and 2008, getting through all these thought to be earth-shattering, world-ending pandemics, and only to realize that we get through it, and each time we got through it stronger. So the advertising industry in general has been decimated. A lot of people let go. The pandemic has forced old models to be rethought. We are very fortunate at VaynerMedia, and in particular the Sasha Group, that we are not an old model, but a new model. So I hired 6 people during the pandemic. I transferred a couple from Vayner, 2, and then went outside and hired 4 on my own. So, but yesterday I was commenting on how the pandemic is going to force higher education, colleges and universities. They have to rethink the model. The model is an old, broken model, and now you're going to have to rethink that. You're not going to be able to charge what it is that you used to charge. You're not going to be able to remain insular. Complained about
your daughter entered college, right? Your daughter, first year. Okay.
Yeah, I have no. Okay. Franny is in her 2nd year now.
It's time flies. Okay.
But that one was different. So they make all their money through the dorms and everything like that.
Sure.
We weren't going to take the chance of another possible closure. So we got an off-campus apartment for her in the 2nd year. And sure enough, an announcement comes through that, hey man, with the social distancing, we really only have enough room for all the freshmen to dorm, and everybody else, you're going to have to figure that out. Now, we were ahead of the game, quite frankly, at her direction, but we were ahead of the game and had the apartment. Now there's people scampering. They're driving around the neighborhood trying to secure a lease now, so the pandemic forces old models to rethink. Rewards new models who have already rethought, right? So a lot of those
I feel like there's businesses that you help. I've seen you help that have been established. There's one that comes to my mind that you worked with that was profitable, but they had no marketing strategy they don't know how to reinvent themselves. They've always done the same thing. It's worked, but they're missing out on so much new opportunity. What's your advice to companies that sort of have been complacent, don't know what to do? Where do they start? They're not comfortable with social media or social posts. How does
let me give you an example. Tomorrow I'm on Gary's podcast at 5 p.m. tomorrow, and the topic is Behind the Curtain of the Mentors Program. And we're going to interview one of our first Mentors clients, a guy by the name of Habib Solo, who runs a company called Young Nails out in California. And they're a nail polish manufacturer.
I remember that. Okay, yes, I remember that.
And they were successful. They were a successful nail polish manufacturer selling to whatever it was, 350,000 licensed cosmetologists. So, during our course of mentoring them and spending time with Gary, we came up with the concept of, hey man, 350,000 licensed cosmetologists. Well, there is like 160 million women in the US. Like maybe you should broaden your audience. Maybe you should go direct to consumer. You know what I mean? Do-it-yourselfers who, you know, we're not going to alienate the professionals that buy your product, and maybe we'll develop some new colors or a different line that we sell direct to the consumer. Now, let me ask you this. During this pandemic, do you think that guy is happy that he made the pivot when every nail salon was closed and he still couldn't keep up with the orders being shipped to the people's homes? You know, so
yeah.
tell the story of how his business doubled in 3 years. His top line business doubled in 3 years during a pandemic. When the world shut down, he still doubled. So yeah, we work hard to bring our clients explosive growth. Okay.
Explosive. I love that.
Yeah, we represent another one now. It's a manufacturer of electric scooters. You know, we think there couldn't be a better timing for that in the New York area, right? People are not going to want to get on the subway with 2,000, right? Like they want to commute maybe with a bicycle or a scooter or, you know, a board. So those sales are going up and looking good during the pandemic.
That's interesting. And speaking, we have to talk about one of the biggest stories, I think, during this was Empathy Wines being acquired by Constellation, because didn't they see how well Empathy was doing online, and said, especially during this, right?
Yeah,
Everybody's thinking, that was amazing, by the way.
Yeah, so Gary always says great marketing can't sell a shit product. Fortunately, spectacular product. But Constellation Brands, I don't believe. I mean, I haven't spoken to Gary about that. I have time with him on the 17th. But Constellation Brands weren't so enamored with 3.5 million of sales or 15,000 cases that were sold in year one. They were enamored with the ability to go direct to consumer through an e-commerce platform that the Empathy folks, Nate and Trouty, both of which worked for Gary in the past in VaynerX. I worked closely with them when I first started. You know, developed. So it's that platform that Constellation Brands is interested in to push bigger wine labels like Simi and Robert Mondavi that they own, right? So this, hey man, you've already done that, and we've seen that so many times before, right? Where big companies, the Pepsis of this world, and you know, oftentimes have to acquire the innovation from outside their own hallways. You reach a point where there's just too much bureaucracy, and you know, this guy hands his work to this guy, who hands his work to this guy. This is why I left public accounting, right? This guy hands his work to this guy, this guy hands it to the manager, who hands it to the partner. I'm like, wait a second, I'm the guy that did the work, you know? Like,
yeah, too many layers.
You know, having the ability to leverage that for some of their bigger brands, and that's why they employed Nate and Trouty, as we affectionately call them, as part of the Constellation Brands family.
Yeah, how do you see with, obviously you were talking about the content changing, right, for your existing what is the with everything that's going on online, as we know, COVID, political, all of that, you see brands pulling out that don't want to be associated with that, but then you also need, people still need to market themselves, and that's obviously the best way is online, digital. How do they do that in a way where it doesn't seem insensitive, but also you want to sustain your brand? Is it a different conversation, or is it a different look?
I'll tell you this, establishing the brand platforms, what your brand stands for, vision, mission, value, okay, and the pillars that are going to hold up your brand, that you could always look back to and say, hey, this is why we did what it is that we did. Okay, not wishy-washy, not flown with the breeze. Today's the day we all get on this bandwagon. Tomorrow we're on something else. Okay, it's so vitally important. We're doing so much work in that for small businesses. Our branding division is really taking off nicely. You remember I was global CFO for Interbrand and then the North American Chief Operating Officer. So Interbrand really taught me the power of brand, right? Gary says a brand outsells the best salesman like 10 to 1, right? So brand is more powerful than your salesman. So so getting that. Now let's talk about that, because I just read a great piece about the Yeti brand, right? Two brothers, who couldn't keep their fish cold, who developed this product.
I love Yeti. Look how expensive it is now.
And it did $1 billion with a B in sales last year, right? Now, their demo isn't guys like me that drag the Yeti to the pool, okay? Their demo was really hardcore fishermen, hunters, people in the woods, need to keep this thing cold for 3 days because I'm living in the woods. Well, they took a stand against the NRA, and weren't in support of the NRA because they went back to their brand values. And, a lot of their customers boycotted. In fact, there was some viral videos of hunters actually shooting their Yeti coolers, like blowing them up kind of thing. But it didn't stop them, because they took the time to develop their brand promise and their brand pillars. And now it has become a cultish type brand, right? It's gone way beyond fishermen and hunters, and, cool thing to have, sold out. But establishing your brand promise and then being able to say, this is why I did what I did. This is why I supported that. This is why I was silent on that. This is why I was against that. As long as it comes back.
Oh, I love it. So what your brand stands for, no matter what. I love it. What do you think about, I know you work with a lot of startups. I feel like there's going to be a lot of startups as a result of this, people that are very talented, that have that entrepreneurship, they're an entrepreneur caught in a corporate body. That's what I always said I was. Mm-hmm. What are the mistakes? There's always startups. There seems like, there's always a good idea. What are the mistakes that they make starting out as a startup? You got a great idea, think it's great. Everybody says it's great. Before they, what are the steps that you give to a brand new startup? And it was pretty general.
There's a big difference between a business model and an idea. I can't. Mm-hmm. How many look, when we launched the Sasha Group, we had 4,800 inquiries or 4,700 inquiries in the first 48 hours. Okay. And as we peeled back the onion, a few thousand of them were nothing more than an idea. You're not a startup with an idea. Okay. You need a business plan, you need funding, and that doesn't mean that you go out and raise capital. Gary's not crazy about giving away pieces of his company. You kind of bootstrap it, is what he's saying. Like, do some friends and family, liquidate some of the assets that you have to get it off the ground. This was another reason why we launched the Stork product, because, the Sasha Group was really for funded startups with a revenue stream, right?
Okay.
We didn't have a product for people who just were, birthing something new, right? So, so now, we said, look, let's let the Stork thing do its thing and help them do it themselves, right? Sasha actually got into recruiting, where, we help recruit for, hey, I'm ready now to build my own internal team. I need a videographer, I need a content producer, I need a media buyer. We help our clients find those people, many of which reside in Gary's inbox, as you can imagine, because so many people want to be part of his world.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, so not being able to have a boss doesn't make an entrepreneur. Okay, mm-hmm. That's another thing that we saw. I'm an entrepreneur because, I can't have a boss. Been fired from my last 3 companies. Not certain about that.
Right.
You'll know if you have entrepreneurial tendencies or an entrepreneurial spirit very early on. Gary always talks about, selling lemonade stands and ripping flowers out of one neighbor and then walking around to the front door and selling it back to the neighbor. Little entrepreneur. things.
Getting golf balls out of a pond, washing them and selling them.
Absolutely. And by the way, I met a guy now that is now a really big business for them.
I bet.
Pulling,
Think about the ponds in Florida. Nobody wants to go in there. There's gators in there.
Exactly. So somebody doing that, you'd just be surprised at how many we're like, wow, there's really a business for that. Like, I can't believe that somebody made a business out of that.
That's really smart. And I love watching Gary go to he goes to garage sales and, he just, because he loves to.
Because he's into the sport of it. He's into the sport of it. He absolutely loves what he's doing now in the trading cards, and there's big business to be had there. In fact, I have two entrepreneurs who decided that they were going to leave their job and pursue a passion. And their passion was actually in trading cards, so
if that's passion, they're going to be all in on that.
Yeah, that's just it. If your passion becomes your profession, it's game over. And for me, my passion was always business, right? People just can't figure out. So I don't understand. You're on the beach, you're reading a business book, you're still reading the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, I mean, business is my hobby.
That's me too. Some people have golf leagues. So I love entrepreneurship. I love the ideas of bringing them. Even this, you and I talking was just a conversation online. Mm-hmm. We brought it to reality, that I would guest host, that I would interview you, and it's happening. You can do that. I think so many people they think about it, but they don't really take the actions to do it. And then when you do and you're successful, you're like, oh, I can pretty much do anything. Mm-hmm. So, but that's. What are you most excited about with Sasha? You're a year and a half into it. You're in your second year, obviously, a huge setback or whatever with the pandemic. What are you excited about? What did you learn in your first year at Sasha? Obviously, startup within the Vayner family, but what are you going to do different going into 2021 or change, or what are you really excited about?
Yeah, so we did something called an Eisenhower matrix at the end of 2019, which I shared with Gary. We set a revenue goal, right? So we were very fortunate. We did around 10 million in year one, and we wanted to do 20 to 30 more in year two.
Congratulations. That's huge.
Yeah, thank you. And Gary was like, okay, so how are we going to get there? And the Eisenhower matrix, which is a plotting graph, okay, with important and urgent, put these dots on. And it was great to see how they came to pass, right? So we wanted to start a West Coast office, and we did.
Okay.
People there. We wanted to launch a membership subscription type model, and we did with the store. We wanted to do more in the branding space. We wanted to help existing mentors. We had all these things that we were ticking the box. One was we wanted to launch our own podcast. That's one that I haven't done yet, but I just literally got the plan before we spoke, and live right after Labor Day. So
that's really great.
These goals with important and urgent, and then working hard to get to them. Right. So, I'm very excited about what Gary is selling really well at the VaynerMedia side with this Vayner volume model. Okay, where it's not about a piece of content. It's not about creating art. It's about the scrappiness and speed and value and having a lot of content out there working on your behalf and doubling down on the stuff that is working for you and walking away from the stuff that's not. So we're bringing our version of that volume model to the Sasha Group, and that'll be a big 2021 driver for us. As we work with brands that want to work with VaynerMedia and quite frankly don't have the money to get into their hallways. So, work with us on a lesser level. It's not to say we do what Vayner does for less money. That's not about it. We have a different model, but let us help you grow into VaynerMedia. And they love that storyline and that vernacular. So Gary always says the Sasha Group is the most Gary-centric offering that he has in the VaynerX portfolio. meaning that our client base is very closely aligned to, you know, his content and you know, what's working for him. So it's easy for us to kind of sell in. Most of our clients are in fact fans of his content, followers of him.
For sure, for sure. What I always have to ask about my industry. What do you we obviously the out of home industry got hit really hard because nobody was driving, no one's used the transit system. Right. They got hit hard, really, really hard. I know it'll come back. You know, you have to do what you have to do. You have to cancel people, and you have to, you know, redirect those dollars. What could the industry do to prevent this in the future so it wasn't such a hard hit? No one saw this coming, obviously, and we're not, you know, really an online industry, so to speak, except if you buy programmatic. What are just your thoughts on that? Because there are.
Well, look, I think if you're an out-of-home provider and you don't have a digital solution, you are lost. Remember, I was the CEO of Cedo Mobile from 2011 through 2014. And when we developed our mobile display, mobile DSP, where you know, we had geofence capabilities and can serve an ad with 500 feet of you know, of a storefront. Our biggest clients were out of home providers, right? So you bought this billboard for Wendy's and you got this mobile thing because, you know, we'll send a message into Angry Birds app or the Weather Channel. You know, you see it in Wave, right? Whenever you're using Waze, they're saying, "Hey, there's a Subway over here. There's a, you know, there's a gas station over here." You know, those are the out-of-home driven ads that are being served into your mobile device. So, you know, I'm a big believer of digital signage. We use it. Oh, I work with you on some of my clients and using it, so I think it's very gripping. But it's hard to be in an out-of-home industry when nobody's out of home. Right. So, but everybody is on their phone, right? So you better have a strategic alliance, an acquired solution, a built offering that delivers to mobile. And by the way, when I was at Cedo, we didn't have access to any of the big. We couldn't get into Facebook or Pinterest or Twitter. We weren't serving ads into that stuff. You know, we were serving ads into
the smaller applications.
You know, the Weather Channel, different apps like that. So that's my advice.
What are your thoughts on like the linear networks, specifically? Like, obviously all the theaters are shut down right now, right? And people have been at home. As soon as they open up, I want to go to a movie. I just want to get out of the house and do something. How do you feel about, you know, obviously reaching that audience in the linear network space as well, not just out of home, but, you know, more people are going to the grocery store. So is it following where the audience attention is? Because I think everybody's looking for messaging or updates right now, and they're more like their eyes are open to it.
Yeah, look, for us, it's always been about storytelling and relevant content that people want to engage with, right? You know, because I came from the traditional agency model where advertising was a disruption. I'm going to disrupt whatever it is that you're doing. So in a magazine, I'm going to stick an ad right in the middle of the article. You're watching a football game. I'm going to stop you and serve you a commercial, right?
Yeah.
You got your favorite song going. I'm going to stop that, and you're going to listen to it. So it was very in your face. Okay. Now, what we do is, you know, just part of your world and interest in content that I want to consume. Okay. Like that was a really interesting published piece that was probably paid for by Yeti that caught my attention. Didn't disrupt me, but I'm interested in branding. Okay. I thought it was a cool brand. I shared that 6 times in the 2 days that I read it. Okay. how does your advertisement become part of my life? Okay, it's part of my uh, you know world.
Daily commute, or yeah, absolutely.
I've moved from radio to podcasting because it allows me to consume the content when I want to consume it. Not, hey, this thing is on at 7:30. You're either getting it or you're not. All right. I had an interesting conversation, believe this or not, with the pastor of my church, who moved to virtual, obviously, because we couldn't meet. And he said to me, James, do you know only 25% of the people are consuming the content when it's live at 10 a.m. on a Sunday? And I said, wow, that's interesting. I mean, I'm one of the ones that do get up and consume it at 10 a.m. But he's like, no, 75% of the people watch it at their leisure. Now,
Oh,
we got a lot more people engaged than we ever did in the building. So the building sat 500, maybe we're getting 750 or 1,000 engaging with it. But it's such a small percentage are showing up when I say, hey, we're going live at 10 a.m. on a Sunday. I found that very interesting and enlightening. Like, people want to consume it when they want to consume it. They don't want you to tell them when it is.
that's right. Hey, you can embrace religion anytime, right? And yeah, exactly. Maybe you're not ready for it. Maybe you're not awake yet.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the same with our. What is inspiring you right now? Are you reading anything? Are you doing any meditation? What are some of the inspirations that keep you going? And
Yeah,
you know,
I just read this book.
finding house projects.
Let me get this book.
I thought somebody was at your door. Is that
No.
Oh,
This is Reinvent Your Life. I just read this on my vacation, and
I saw your tweet. I'm gonna look at that.
yeah, it's really cool. It's about, a lot of people who mostly over 40, 50 years old who were forced to reinvent themselves, right? So and it's so timely. Right now with the pandemic, we just talked about all these people getting laid off and everything like that. And some really great and interesting stories of pivots, and finding passions and how things came about. It's by Kathy Sharp Rawson. I actually have a piece in chapter 14 because I was interviewed for this in finding my way to this world. So yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna get that. All right, like Oprah, everybody gets a copy on the podcast. A signed copy.
So now we've plugged the store content. We've plugged the Read Your Life book. Like, what else can we do? See, this is what I'm about. Commercials during my normal process, right?
I know. It's like the Truman Show. All of a sudden, there's product placement.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think that it's so great to catch up with you. I won't keep you any longer.
Mm-hmm.
But I could talk to you for hours, obviously, but
your
time
I may actually have to put gas in my generator because
yeah. Okay,
it's going to run out at noon.
Get some candles. No, but yeah, no, thank you so much for being. I mean, this is the first time I hosted this program. Mm-hmm. You came to mind right away, and actually, people asked for you. So I really appreciate. You're so generous with your time, as I said at the beginning, and we got to do this every year because.
Well, I hope Tim's audience finds value with what it is that we discussed today, and I have. So the Sasha Group everything is the Sasha Group, right? The website, all the social channels, the Sasha Group.
Sasha Group. I said like media in there, and that's mine. I gotta correct that, but yeah, the Sasha Group.
The Sasha Group. And I'm James Orsini on LinkedIn and Instagram, and at Jimmy the Pencil on Twitter.
I know, absolutely, and so I can connect with you, and you're very generous and I want to hear what happens, in 2021 with Sasha. I'll have to get an update. So,
great. Okay, I look forward to it.
I think we're losing you.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, James. It was a pleasure. Bye.